So hello guys, this is part 2 of the video that we saw recently. If you haven't seen it, you can see it right here. We're talking about the 12 best foods that you can have at home. So follow me, and if you haven't seen part 1, you can go here and watch part 1. This is part 2. We're going to see the next 6 foods that you should have in your home. Number 6 is eggs. And I know that you might think eggs, but everyone says that they are bad for your cholesterol, they clog arteries, they give you cardiovascular disease, and that's not true. Please remember that you're not going to raise your cholesterol by eating cholesterol. When we eat cholesterol in our diet, it's in a way that it's called esterified cholesterol. And that's not going to raise our cholesterol because we don't absorb much of it. So it's going to stay in your intestine and we're going to eliminate it in our bowel. Eggs, it's a great source of nutrients, and you need to take the yolk and you need to take the whites. You need to take the egg complete. In the yolk, we have all the healthy fats. We have choline, which is super important for brain development and for all the repair, DNA repair, cell repair, and the repair in general for the body, because it's the precursor for acetylcholine, which is everything you need. And it's a neurotransmitter that we need to repair well. It's a great source of protein. It's the highly available source of protein that we have as humans. When we want to compare any other protein with the gold standard for the availability of the protein, it's always egg. So eggs, the source of protein, it's not the highest source of protein, because when you're eating an egg, you're getting maybe 6 to 7 grams of protein. So if you want to get 30, 40, you're going to have to eat 5 or 6 eggs. So the bioavailability of the proteins inside eggs, of the amino acids, is very high. Also, eggs are very rich in vitamins and minerals. One of the highest sources of folate is eggs. And folate is very important for brain development in babies when they're inside the uterus. And it's also very important for all the DNA repair inside our body, which is very protective for cancer. Number 7, it's animal-derived proteins. And I know that many people might think that animal-derived proteins are not good because they have any kind of belief in terms of sacrifice, in terms of global warming. And again, I'm not going to discuss that in this video because it's very discussion-y. It could be very hot, and it could be, you could have on this side a bunch of people saying all their arguments, and you have people on the other side having other arguments, and it's not part of this video. But for me, in the way I see nutrition, I think that getting animal protein, it's very important, and it's a good way and a very easy way of getting all the amount of amino acids, getting especially all the essential amino acids without having the other problem, which is getting too much carbs and too much starches in order to get that protein. There is something about animal proteins, and please don't get me wrong for this that I'm going to say, and it's, if you can pay it, try to look for clean origin. If you want to get beef, try to get beef that is grass-fed, and if it's certified organic, I think it's better. People might say, "Oh, but there's not enough data. There haven't been any studies in humans showing." Yeah, maybe, but I think that if cattle, it's been raised with GMO cereals in their diet, that's going to be inside them, and that's the genetic information that they're going to have in every single cell, and I'm going to be eating that information. And one part of nutrition right now that it's very important and has been growing a lot, it's everything called nutrigenomics, and it's the way the nutrients relate with my genes. So if I'm eating foods that have altered genes, we don't know for sure how that's going to interact with my genes. But on the other hand, I have another example, and it's the way that my genes relate with the genes in the bugs that I have all over my body. And that's so we now understand that. I can think a little bit forward and say, okay, if that happens in between my genes in my cells and the genes in the gut bacteria that I have, or the bacteria in the microbiome that I have all over my body, that happens, well, that could happen too with an altered gene inside food that I'm ingesting. If you want to do it, please try to do it. Try to look for clean origin. What is clean origin? If you're looking for beef, grass-fed. If it's organic, it's better. With chicken, I think that eating chicken that it's organic, it's better. And when you're looking for fish, look for fish that is not raised. Look for wild caught or fish that people get at the sea. Part of including clean proteins in your diet, it should be, again, eggs. I know that we just spoke about eggs, but clean origin should be also eggs, because I just mentioned that you should be eating organic chicken, but with eggs, it's exactly the same thing. Please remember that we are what we eat. Number 8 is salt. We have the tendency of thinking that there is a direct causality saying that salt causes hypertension and hypertension causes cardiovascular disease. And yes, excess of salt might cause hypertension. But right now we know that hypertension, it's not caused just by eating salt. Hypertension is a vascular phenomenon that occurs after years and years and years of chronic inflammation, of chronic insults that cause inflammation and rigidity of my arteries. If I eat too much salt, may I have a hypertensive episode? Yeah, but it's going to last for maybe a couple hours. It's the same thing like with coffee. It's going to last just for some hours. And remember this, I'm not saying that you need to be eating too much salt. Because that's not what I'm saying. But you shouldn't be avoiding salt. A human being needs approximately 2,300 milligrams of salt per day. That's a tablespoon. That's around 5 grams of salt. Because remember that the table salt, it's 40% sodium and 60% chloride. So it's a mix of 2 molecules in making table salt. But we don't have to avoid it. Why? Because when we avoid table salt, or when we avoid sodium, and when we eat less, we're going to have higher risk of cardiovascular disease. And this is something that no one talks about. But sodium in the body, it's very, very important, not just for hydration, but for mental clarity, having cellular stability in the relationship that sodium has with potassium, magnesium, bicarbonate, proteins, that brings all the stability to the cell. And there's something else. You might be thinking, okay, I'm going to try to eat the right amount of salt in my diet, but what's better, eating more salt or less salt of what I need? Your body knows more what to do with the excess than when you're lacking of salt. Why? If you're eating too much salt, your kidneys can eliminate that amount of salt. But if you're not eating the right amount of salt, you cannot get sodium from anywhere. And sodium, again, it's very important for your health. Number 9 is apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar has many benefits that I think that are important for your health. One of them, it's a fermented food, so you can use it as a fermented food, or you can use it to ferment something else. So you can have, and I'm going to say like this, like probiotic rich foods. I say probiotic because it's not a correct way of saying, because it's not a probiotic by itself, but it's going to be a food that it's high in bacteria that have been growing by the process of fermentation, which is going to be very good for your gut health. It has been shown in several studies that when you include apple cider vinegar before your meals, the glucose spike after that meal is going to be much lower, and the insulin spike after that meal, it's going to be much lower. And what does that mean? That you are going to have more metabolic control after each meal. And something else that hasn't been studied very well, but I have been using it for several years in my clinical practice, is that many people, when they have gastrointestinal problems, especially, of course, gastric problems, it's because they don't produce enough acid inside their stomach. When you help people giving them a little bit of apple cider vinegar in water before meals, you get acetic acid, which is the kind of acid that apple cider vinegar has, and you put acetic acid in a little bit of water in their stomach, and it's going to combine with the hydrochloric acid which you have in your stomach, and that's going to help you digest better. Why? Because when you have enough acid, you produce all the digestive enzymes so you can break down carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins in your gut, and you're going to digest better. Number 10, it's nuts, and nuts of every single variety of nuts. Nuts are very different in between one to the other. Ones have more content of fat than the other. Ones have more fiber than the other. But if you try to mix different nuts in your diet, almonds, macadamia, cashews, walnuts, different nuts in your diet, what are you going to find? Well, you're going to find different kinds of fatty acids, which are going to be good. Where you're going to find good amount of saturated fats, monounsaturated fats. You're going to find polyunsaturated fats in terms of good omega-6 and good omega-3. Also, you're going to have good amounts of fiber, which is very important. Fiber is very good for your gut bacteria, for your digestion, for blood glucose, for your metabolism, cardiovascular protection, and on and on and on. You're going to have some amount of protein. Some of them have more protein than the others, but you're going to have some protein. And of course, you're going to find vitamins and minerals, and you're going to find phytonutrients. For instance, almonds and walnuts have good amounts of melatonin, and are part of the foods that you might recommend people if they don't want to get a supplement, but they want to get a better sleep. Number 11 are legumes. Again, as with animal protein, it's something it's open for debate, but I think that legumes, if you include them, not every single day, not thinking that they are the best protein in the world, I think there's something that you can include. Why? I think legumes have good amounts of vitamins, of minerals. They have a good amount of fiber. You need to be aware that if you eat too much legumes, thinking that you can eat, 100, 200, 300 grams in order to have the right amount of protein, you might be eating too much starches. Remember that starches are a kind of carbs, which is just molecules of glucose which are bound together. When we eat them, all those glucose molecules, they unbind and they get free, and they're going to get into your bloodstream. Although they have fibers so that they don't go as fast, if you're eating too much, they could be a problem. So we have to avoid them. I don't think we have to avoid them. I think they could be a good source of again, vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein in our diet. But for me, it's better when you mix them with animal protein and you make a good mix, or you can in the same plate at the same time, or you can have them at separate times during the day. Something that people criticize about legumes is that they have anti-nutrients. And these anti-nutrients are kind of nutrients that plants have. So whenever we eat them, we're going to have symptoms and we're not going to digest them well. Well, that could happen for some people. For some people, they don't. But if you want to avoid this when eating beans or any other legume, it's very easy. Soak them in water with apple cider vinegar for a couple hours. And after soaking them, then you can get them out and you can cook them again with a little bit of apple cider vinegar in the water that you're cooking them. And all these anti-nutrients are going to go away. And number 12 are mushrooms. Mushrooms are very diverse, and it's something that has been growing lately. In the last years, all the interest for mushroom as powered mushrooms, mushrooms in teas, mushrooms in coffees, mushrooms in capsules, tablets, supplements. It's a great source of protein. It's a great source of specific types of phytonutrients, which are not minerals and vitamins, but are antioxidants and some other nutrients that have specific properties. And studies have been growing in cancer, autoimmune disease, neurodegenerative disease, cardiovascular disease. And I think in the upcoming years, we're going to see several benefits that we don't know yet about mushrooms, but I think that including mushrooms in your diet, it's going to be a very good way in which you can include plant-derived proteins with animal proteins, or if you want to avoid animal proteins and you don't want to be eating too much legumes, the amount of carbohydrates and the amount of starches inside mushrooms, it's very low. versus the amount of protein that you're getting. So try to get the ones that you can get locally, but if not, if you want to look for difference at your grocery store, try to look for different kinds of mushrooms and you're going to get the best benefits of it. So as you can see, what I've just told you are foods that are very easy to find, and you can find them probably elsewhere. You can find, if you're going for travel, you're going to find them. If you want to have it at home, you're going to find them. So you might be thinking, how can I include this in my diet to have the best benefits? And it's very easy. If you make 50 to 75% of what you see in your dish, in your plate, and it's vegetables of different colors with mushrooms and olive oil, apple cider vinegar in it, and salt, then you have a lot of the ingredients that we just mentioned there. Then you're going to check out your proteins. And if you want to include animal proteins, fine, you're getting a great amount of protein with all the amino acids. If you want to mix them with plant and animal proteins, it's going to be wonderful. If you don't, if you want to eat legumes, try to eat legumes with a bunch of mushrooms so you can have all the benefits from the protein, less amount of carbohydrates and starches, and all the benefits from the fiber. But as you can see, and then you can, what can you drink? And then you can drink a little bit of water with apple cider vinegar. You can get afterwards some coffee and maybe some tea. And when you include this during the day, you're going to find it very, very easy. It's not too complicated. It's just knowing what to do, what to include, make it easy, and learn how to balance them. And when you do that in 3 or 2 meals during the day, eating the right amount of nutrients, then your health is going to be completely different. So this is the final list of the 6 final foods that we were talking about. So we now have the complete list of the 12 foods that you should have at home most of the time. And before you leave, please remember that the best way to support this channel, it's very easy, just to hit the like button. Please remember to subscribe here in the red button and hit the bell so we can tell you every time that we make a new video. Till next time.